5.3. The Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority Board of Directors and Standing Committee meetings will be held via teleconference, video conference only for the duration of the current state of emergency. So I'd like to go ahead and call to order, if you will. Can Lori, can you do a roll call, please?
Bolinas Fire District.
Present.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. City of San Rafael.
Present.
City of Larkspur.
Here.
County of Marin. Inverness.
I'm here.
Kentfield Fire.
Yes.
Muir Beach.
Present.
Novato.
Here.
Sleepy Hollow Fire Department, Fire District.
Here.
Southern Marin Fire.
Here.
Marin Wood. Okay. Marin Wood. No,
That'll be Darren. That'll be Darren White from Marinwood as well.
Oh, so that is present then on that one.
Correct.
City of Mill Valley.
Here.
Stimson Beach Fire.
Here.
Town of Court Madera. Town of Fairfax. Town of Ross.
Here.
Town of San Elselmo.
Here.
If there's a quorum, thank you.
Thank you, Lori.
Welcome.
Any agenda adjustments, Ann?
No, none from me.
All right, it is time for open time for public expression. The public is welcome to address the Operations Committee at this time on matters not on the agenda that are within the jurisdiction of the committee. Please be advised that pursuant to the Government Code Section 54954.2, the committee is not permitted to discuss or take action on any matter not on the agenda. Comments may be no longer than 3 minutes and should be respectful to the community. Please silence your cell phones during the meeting. Mute your microphone when not reporting out. If anyone would like to, from the attendees would like to make a comment now, would you raise your hand? Let us know.
I see no
anyone?
hands.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you very much. So moving on, Planning and Program Managers report, verbal report. Ann.
Thank you. I'll give a quick recap of where we are in terms of implementing the fiscal year 2021-22 work plan. We've completed CEQA for 16 projects. We're working on a coastal permit for one more core project, and that is the West Marin Evacuation Route Project. Biologists are actually in the field this week, conducting surveys that are required for the permitting process. Excluding the West Marin evac route work, we've completed environmental compliance for approximately 260 miles of evacuation route roadside veg management, 12 miles of fire road veg management, and over 479 acres of shaded fuel breaks and or goat grazing. So that's the environmental compliance done. Those projects are either underway or will be soon. To get all of that planning work done, we've been meeting regularly with member agencies, a variety of stakeholders and land management agencies to make sure that we're communicating regularly during the planning and implementation phases of these projects. We also meet weekly with legal counsel to ensure that we're following all environmental laws and regulations. And then, I wanted to let you know that when we're ready to get boots on the ground for all of these projects, we've also developed a program to train field crews and make sure that they're aware of all the standards that they'll need to stick to while implementing these projects. We have materials in both Spanish and English available. And I wanted to let you know that this January, this week, maybe the week previous as well, we kicked off the public info portion of our home hardening and defensible space grant program for residents. And we began advertising and posting on social media, and we're starting to get inquiries and applications from residents. So that's really exciting. And I'd like to also introduce Lori Frontella. She is a temporary ops clerk and also ATC clerk. She's going to be helping us out with our meetings. She has many years of experience clerking, and this is her first MWPA meeting. So welcome, Lori, and please expect to receive emails from her in the future regarding agendas and Zoom information. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Ann.
And thank you so much. And just off of that point, make sure that you check your spam filters. Lori is sending information out. She had sent out this meeting along with the packet on Sunday the 9th. And I found it in my spam filter, so you may also. So make sure you go in there and take a look and adjust your filter accordingly. Are there any questions from our group? And excellent report. Super excited about all the secret compliance being done ahead of time. That gives us the ability to start on the projects, and also great news about the grants and the opportunity for the public. I think those are going to be used, very much needed as an incentive. So any questions for Ann on her report? Okay,
Oh, Bill, I just one comment on what you just meant about the spam filters and the emails. If we could somehow vet the email list, because I did go through all my spam. I went through our approved, I went through everything, and I wasn't on that list at all. So I didn't receive it till Mark sent it out last night. I apologize.
Thank you so much. We'll make sure to include you in the
I'll
future.
check that.
Sorry about that.
Thank you for letting us know, Mark. Okay, let's go out to the public on the report. Any comment from the public?
I see no hands.
All right, thank you very much. Bringing it back. Next item is number 6, is the consent calendar. So looks like there's one item on there to approve the December 15th, 2021 meeting minutes. Hopefully you guys have had a chance to take a look at that. Let's see. So I think I need I just need a motion and a second, and I guess we got to, any questions about the consent calendar? All right, if we can go out to the public and see if there's any questions there.
I see no hands raised. Thank you.
Okay, coming back. So I need a motion and a second for the consent.
I'll motion to move the consent calendar.
Second by Tubbs.
So it looks like the motion was by David Dorney and the second was by Chris Tubbs.
And you want a roll call vote for that?
Please.
Bolinas Fire District,
Yes.
City of San Rafael,
That would be yes as well.
City of Larkspur,
Yes.
County of Marin is absent. Inverness,
Yes.
Kentfield Fire,
Yes.
Muir Beach,
Yes.
Novato Fire,
Yes.
Sleepy Hollow Fire,
Yes.
Southern Marin District,
Yes.
City of Mill Valley,
Yes.
Marinwood,
Yes.
Yes.
Stimson Beach Fire,
Yes.
Town of Corte Madera, absent. Town of Fairfax, absent. Town of Ross,
Yes.
and Town of San Anselmo.
Yes.
Passes by majority vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. All right, moving down to item number 7, there's 3 items under discussion, A, B, and C. First item is the process for beta testing of the project portal for year 2022-23 work plan development. And this is going to be a verbal report. Ann, are you going to give it?
Yes. So last month in December, you received PowerPoint presentation on the web portal that we're creating so that we can more efficiently create the next work plan for the 2022-2023 fiscal year. So the idea, just to recap, is to collect basic project information, lead agency, partner agencies, location information like GIS files if you have it, or if you don't, you can draw within the portal polygons, points, lines on a map. You can link your project to one of 5 board adopted goals. You can link your project to objectives associated with those goals. We'll be collecting information that might be useful for potential grant applications and also for future environmental review and also for monitoring and reporting as we move into implementation. We'll be, so the portal itself uses kind of a logic process. So as you answer questions, it filters the future questions that you have to answer based on your responses so that you won't have to answer all questions for every project. It'll be more logical, I think, than the previous process. And, eventually we'll be linking metrics to these projects as well, so you can build that into your project and your budget as you're planning. So currently the web portal is close to actually being ready to beta test. We're still editing some of the fields, some of the wording, and adding some functionality, but we're hoping that during the week of January 24th, that will be a good week for us to work with members of the ATC to start uploading potential projects for the next work plan and really testing out each of those fields. So hoping to enter a project, at least one project per zone, at least one project per goal area. So, a vegetation management type project, a evacuation detection type project, public education type project, etc., and really test it out and fine tune that tool before we unveil it. We are hoping to unveil that tool at the January 31st ATC meeting, and then really start using it after that. Of course, that'll be, pending the results of the beta test. And then I'll cover in more detail kind of a proposed process and schedule for the work plan development in one of the future items on this agenda. And that's it.
Very good. That sounds like excellent progress. Is there any questions for Ann on the beta testing for the project portal for the work plan for next year's work plan? And I have a question with regards to the January 24th ATC starting to upload. Will there be a training for the entire ATC, or are you handpicking a few people to do the beta?
I think we'll be reaching out to ATC members to see who's interested in helping out with the beta testing. So anybody who has potential projects that they'd like to upload. We've had a few member agencies reach out to us to help beta test, so we'll certainly be communicating with them. Whoever would like to get a preview is really welcome. We'll be including on the 31st agenda more of a formal training on how to log in and create your username and password and all of that. So part of the process will be sending out emails to ATC members to invite them to participate and provide some instructions online for how to sign up.
Very good. Questions for Ann again? Okay, if we can go to the public, see if there's any questions regarding item 7A.
I see no hands raised.
All right. And because it's a discussion item only, no action is required. So moving on to item number B, create process for developing the 2022-23 budget and, work plan budget and the work plan proposal review. And is this you again?
That's me again.
Okay. All right.
You can't get rid of me. So I'm going to share my screen here if that's okay. Lori, since you started the Zoom, I assume you'll need to allow me to share my screen.
I just did it for you.
Oh,
Thank you.
All right, can everyone see this slide?
Yes.
Great. So this slide is, there's a lot of text on here, and I can certainly distribute this outside of this meeting, but generally speaking, I wanted to give some timelines, milestones for the process. I've talked to council about it and Mark, and happy to hear your input as well. So for this fiscal year 2022-23 work plan, we started really in the fall, October, November, trying to create this web portal. In the future, we may use that kind of fall, winter months to fine tune it, to add metrics, to fix any bugs that arise. And then just to recap, in December, we started up the ATC and Ops committees again. In January, of course, on our agenda today is to elect the chair and vice chair of the Ops committee, create overall kind of approach and strategy for the work plan, and Mark's going to discuss that in a future item today, and discuss creating the process, potentially a couple of ad hoc subcommittees to dive into work plan development, to review proposals, to discuss budget, etc. And that is something for you and this committee to determine today. In addition, the ATC will be electing their chair and vice chair and receiving an update on the overall approach based on this committee's decisions, and also instruction on how to use that web portal. February and March will really be diving into developing and uploading proposals for the work plan. And we'll be working with council to make sure that all of that is done in compliance with the Brown Act. Non-voting members of the Advisory Technical Committee can view but not edit proposals at this time, but we would like those non-voting members, such as Marin County Parks and Marin Water, State Parks, the Ecologically Sound Practices Partnership, to be able to see what proposals are being included so that they can be part of the discussion early on in the planning process. We're hoping that in February and March, this committee can start working really on the budget for this work plan and thinking through some of those challenges. That could be a role of an ad hoc subcommittee if you think that's appropriate. Late March, early April, we're hoping that the ATC will discuss those proposals during one of their public meetings, recommend a suite of proposals for the Ops committee to start considering and really diving into and reviewing. Early April, Ops committee, that would be a good time for the Ops committee to receive that suite of proposals from the ATC, review in detail those proposals, and work back and forth with the ATC members as needed. That could be a role of an ad hoc subcommittee if you think that's appropriate. Ops committee would work with myself and Mark to finalize that work plan and get it ready for board consideration. We'll want to, in early May, discuss that work plan during a public meeting, discuss budget and that suite of proposals. And we'll be really pushing to get that work plan approved by the board in May. That's really our deadline. We need to finish up in May. So that's it for me.
Okay, that looks good. Very clear. Appreciate that. If you could send that out to each one of the committee members so that they can have a copy of that. And I'm also assuming that that's going to be shared with the ATC here, since they are the ones that are doing most of the heavy lifting with the project development.
Absolutely.
Any questions from you all on this process? Okay, hearing none, if we can go out to the public, see if there's any public comment on item 7B.
I see no hands raised.
All right, Lori, quick on the draw there.
Oh, too fast?
No, no, I like it.
Okay.
Okay, very good. So bringing it back then again, this is not an action item, so no vote is needed. Thank you very much. We go on to item C, This is a summary of the Operations Committee Ad Hoc Subcommittee discussion regarding the funding options for the Vegetation Management Specialist. And so first, I think I want to thank those members that participated in this ad hoc committee. We covered a lot of territory in a short amount of time. Those members were Dan Schwartz, Chris Tubbs, Darren White, Jason Weber, myself. And I think we also, of course, had Ann and Mark sort of helping us out there. We did have a series of meetings where we discussed the positions. And I want to just, before I get into this, Ann, did you want to give any sort of an overview? I see you've got a recommendation. Maybe you wanted to, in that staff report, it goes over and kind of gives the background for all of this, but is there anything you want to clarify for the group?
You know, my I think role is just to provide a quick background here and then open it up to you, Chief Tyler, and others to really discuss in detail. So I'll just provide a very, very brief background overview, and some of that is available in that staff report. But the board of directors last year created a strategic ad hoc subcommittee that really met about 4 times in the fall of 2021. And that was to identify what we need to do as an organization to transition from organization building to kind of organization being. So how to manage and maintain this organization for the next several years through the end of Measure C at least. And, one of the big challenges that came up was staffing in order to get all of this great work done. And that lack of staffing, particularly at the MWPA level, but also with member agencies and how to tackle that. So that ad hoc subcommittee really tasked staff, Mark and myself, to come up with a staffing plan. And one of those positions, and you received a report on that staffing plan last December, and one of those positions was a vegetation management specialist who would help manage and implement vegetation management projects and be employed by the MWPA. And that was the subject of these meetings with the operations ad hoc subcommittee, and a lot of discussion, particularly around need, and then around different funding options and how to manage that in a fair way for all the different member agencies who do and don't have staff already to help with these tasks. So just as a very brief background, that was the subject of these a couple of meetings. And then Chief Tyler, I'll hand it off back to you to provide a summary of what was discussed.
Thank you very much. And so I'd mentioned those subcommittee members, and we talked initially, and we felt after our first meeting that we needed to hear directly from people that were doing the work in the field. So we wanted to get a group together of those vegetation managers or people doing the work within the various organizations within the 5 zones. So we convened a meeting of our subcommittee along with those folks, and in some cases their supervisors. And we heard from representatives basically in every zone that we have. And what we asked them to do is to identify sort of what the current status was for vegetation management or managers within each zone. We asked them how their positions were funded, whether it was through the MWPA entirely, through the agency, or whether it was split. We asked about what's working for them and what's not working. And then we asked them what's ideal. And then we just basically went around the horn and gave everybody an opportunity to talk. That was incredibly informative. And so, just quick summary, what we learned was that there's a lot more need for vegetation managers as this organization continues to roll out. That even organizations that had committed to a full-time position, although it was either likely under contract, that they even saw as all of the full scope of the projects go, whether it was core or local projects, that they were likely going to need additional people, and that that just the one or two folks that could help coordinate or fill in the gaps really at the end of the day wouldn't get us to where we need to be. And so this raised some additional questions about who would be doing what, but it did all lead us to the conclusion that just one person or two picked up through the MWPA as staff likely was not going to be able to help us fully implement effectively the programs, both core and local. So that is a summary there just of where we're landed to date. I want to turn it over to Dan also to share some of his observations, and then any of the other committee members.
Yeah, I first want to just thank all the agencies that allowed us to listen to their vegetation management staff. That was really helpful. Appreciate them taking some time out of their day to do that. I appreciate that we had this subcommittee. It was an opportunity for me to understand the breadth of need. Chief Weber pointed out that way back when we had actually envisioned there'd probably need to be a vegetation management person working for MWPA that was assigned to each of the zones. I think now I see that he was quite the visionary. That's probably correct. I won't be stunned if eventually we have as many as 5 of these folks on board. But I am concerned. My takeaway was what that person would do means something different to each member agency that was participating in the conversation. And I think these folks will be set up to fail if MWPA does not define really clearly what their role is before we actually hire them. So, and that's more than a job description. That's really going into, lists of tasks and making clear to the member agencies what MWPA does and what the member agencies might want to do. And I think we heard some member agencies still want to have more control over projects, and some really want to hand almost everything to MWPA. And that was really interesting to hear too. And as I said to the subcommittee, that's doable, but we need to get some smart attorneys involved and come up with a master template agreement between member agencies and MWPA. So thank you, everybody. I think it was a really good exercise.
And Dan, before I let you go on your comments, there also some of what came up had to do with the ability to contract providers to do work, and whether or not that would be done by a local agency or by the MWPA. Did you have any observations you wanted to share on that?
Yeah, some of the comments about contracting, I think, are from agencies with really convoluted contracting processes. But at the same time, what I did hear that I thought was really insightful from Quinn at San Rafael is that we're also fighting for the same contractors. And it would make a lot of sense to centralize, if for no other reason, so we get that resource under a contract where then MWPA can work with all the member agencies to distribute that resource in a logical way so every agency can get help. I think there'd be a lot of power in that. And if MWPA has a less difficult contracting process, and that's helpful too, that's great. But I was particularly struck by the fact that it probably isn't helpful, particularly for the 5 or 6 bigger agencies, if we're just all fighting for the same contractors. So.
Thank you, Dan. Want to open it up to the other panelists that were on that subcommittee, Chris, and I don't see, no, I see Jason's on. Chris, Jason, Darren.
Yeah, I mean, I think that kind of echo what Dan was saying. My fear with the request for one was that was not enough, frankly. And I think that we went into this in a very conservative mode, as we should have, to understand what the workload was going to be. It's significant. And I think that, the public interest in making sure that we're not a bloated organization at the top has allowed us to pause, make sure that we understand what the workload is and move forward and be a lean machine. But I think the public also expects that we're getting work done. And, you know, for the agencies that have taken on all of these projects, we now have a better understanding what that workload looks like. And, you know, we still are approaching this in a way that we're going to be a lean machine. We just need to staff it accordingly. These are not, you know, these are not managers, overhead, admin staff. These are people that are making sure projects are getting done, that the contracts, and we're holding the contractors accountable for quality work and high production rates. So I think that we can move forward with this and continue to work on how we create more efficiency with the positions. So I'm supportive moving forward, understanding that, you know, we still have some work to do at the operations level to figure out, you know, how many more positions, if any more are needed, or at least the coordination among the agencies that have existing positions. So, you know, I think it's been a good process. We're not done yet, I think is the message. And, you know, it's more work than the one WIMS that's being asked for. The question is, you know, from an employment perspective and efficiency perspective, what are the next steps and what's the most efficient? And I think that's what the public's asking us to do, is get work done and be efficient. And I think this is the path forward to do it.
Thank you, Jason. Chris?
Yeah, Bill, I think that what you and Dan and Jason have said has really covered anything that I would offer in the conversation. So I don't have any additional comments.
All right, thank you. Darren on the phone?
Good morning. I agree. It sounds as if, you know, the only thing I would add to this, based on everything that's been shared, is perhaps it may be helpful somewhere down the road for staff to do a walkthrough, as an example of some of the things that we had concerns about when it came to the work that needs to be done administratively, but also the work that needs to be done in the field, and get a sense of, you know, what a smaller project might entail versus a larger project, just to be familiar with the complexity involved, whether it ranges from contracting or working directly with vendors, the oversight. As Quinn shared before, there are some challenges with competing for contractors, but also some challenges that we've experienced in San Rafael with contractors who were not holding themselves accountable. And so I'd like to make sure that we have a mechanism in place to ensure that we don't find ourselves dealing with individuals that we think aren't really suited to do the work here in the county, and then they go from agency to agency, creating havoc or situations that, you know, really make it complicated for each agency who's interacting with them. So I certainly want to share information about some challenges we've had with some of the vendors, and so maybe you can avoid some of those challenges down the road. And I think when we look at this from a county-wide scope and lens, it's a lot easier to make some decisions now about who's suited, who's capable, and what challenges we can avoid, just from that lens. But certainly was informative. I think the listening to everyone throughout the county and the challenges they have, the way that their positions are staffed or not staffed, and to recognize that there are differences within each agency on how they can approach getting work accomplished, whether they want to hand over the bulk of the responsibility to the MWPA, or whether they want to do like San Rafael and perhaps Novato and the county, and work on their projects primarily with their own internal staff with the support of MWPA. To Mr. Schwartz's point, it will be a little bit complicated, but it's certainly something I think we can balance. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Darren. And the only other thing I would add is we did sort of hear across the board that we thought MWPA should be coordinating the chipping and all of that. So that's definitely a position if it's under that vegetation manager, or if it's carved out just on chipping. We'd like, certainly all the agencies would like that to be coordinated under one place. So I think the bottom line is that there's some more work to be done with regards to the subcommittee to kind of vet this out a little bit more, and then potentially try and come up with a recommendation about how they would be paid, whether it would come out of agency, what portion of the agency's portion, and when would it be taken out. That kind of thing wasn't we didn't land on anything there. Any other comments from the board members about what they think next steps would be? Okay, so hearing none, I would just be open to letting that committee run again. But we did all support, coming up with the job descriptions. Dan offered, we need to dive into more of the tasks even, but the chipper position or someone coordinating that, certainly we support that 100%. So I would just say, we would like to probably meet again at least once or twice to see if we could come back with a more perfect recommendation back up to the executive board for action.
Well, Bill,
So-
I don't want to dive too deep in the weeds, but I know Mark wants to get some of this moving with the board in terms of approvals. And I think you're right. If you have a solid generic job description, you can get that through the board with a pay rate. And then the actual, we do this a lot where we have like an administrative assistant, for example, and then it's actually the job announcement where we get into the weeds of what this particular person would do. And that's what I would want to see MWPA do here. I think that would keep us moving while the committee's doing all its recommendations and work for everyone.
Yeah.
Totally agree. Thank you, Dan. That's awesome advice.
Okay, very good. So again, no action needed. That was just a report out. Thank you everyone for that. Out to the public for comment on item 7C.
I see a hand raised. Let me move that person over. Bruce Goings. Bruce, are you there? You have to unmute, Bruce.
Good morning, everybody. Great work. I was part of the strategic ad hoc, and we fully support this work. I guess the one thing I would ask you to consider also beyond the staffing is also basically where are these staff going to reside, and what are the associated costs associated with them, vehicles, equipment. I think the whole package. I mean, these folks are going to be traveling all throughout the county. So my suggestion is to take a look at the entire package to bring back to for yourselves to consider. And that's my only comment. Fantastic work. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Any other comments from the public?
I see no hands raised.
All right, thanks very much. Moving on to action items, number 8A, determine the overall strategy for the 22-23 work plan proposals. Verbal report. Again, or Mark.
I'm going to punt that one to Mark since he was around last time you
All right.
considered this.
Good morning, committee members. And, last year, your committee recommended a house out approach, as that is really where our greatest threats are right now. And that's where the greatest life safety is, and that should be where our focus is. And I still believe that is the correct approach. We haven't accomplished what I believe we haven't accomplished what we need through that house out approach. So I recommend that the ops committee pushes forward the continued house out approach with a couple little tiny tweaks. I think we should really look at increasing our community grant programs, both at increase in the funding and also an increase in the types of grants. And Bill, we really want to lean on the Novato Fire and the experiences you have with your grant programs, because you have a HOA grant program, you have an increased home hardening program. So I would like to see how we can increase the types of grants to better meet our needs. And I think our grant program is actually going to give us some really good data that perhaps we can even get real specific, that instead of just saying a home hardening grant program, maybe we're going to have a vent program, or a Class A roof program. I've suggested to Ann for the ATC to create an ad hoc subcommittee to try to bring the different feedback from each member agency and create as holistic of a grant program underneath the MWPA as much as we can to help alleviate the grant management on all of our member agencies, because there's a huge workload there. And then the other piece is, and I know some agencies are already looking at this, but increased shaded fuel break projects that are running along the WUI. And I think this is a fantastic opportunity for us to have an MWPA sponsored CAL FIRE grant and have one large grant that's authored by the MWPA that has a project in each of the 5 geographical regions that are focused towards a shaded fuel break. And again, Ann's going to be asking for us ad hoc subcommittee of the ATC on the 31st for that. However, there is a very quick turnaround. The grant deadline for the CAL FIRE grants is February 9th. They had their kickoff meeting yesterday and the grants closed February 9th. So we're going to start the grant process as far as, because every grant has that generic language it has to get put in, right? So we're going to start filling in the generic information now and then work with that ACTC subcommittee to very quickly turn it around and make it into a grant project, if that's what the ops committee sees as the direction they would like to go. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate that. Any questions for Mark on that sort of an approach to maintain our focus with the house out, but to expand grant programs, both type, scopes, and amount available. Some sort of MWPA CAL FIRE shaded fuel break grant so that projects are done across each one of the zones. Those were sort of a couple highlights. Looks like Rich, you got a question?
Less a question than a comment. I totally support what Mark has to say there, and just sort of from the perspective of Fire Safe Marin, we're very much endorse the house out approach. I get concerned. You see the big numbers from the state, $1.5 billion towards fire prevention grants. Only 25 million of that's going to home hardening. So much of it is forest focused. Let's take advantage of the fact that that's what their focus is and apply for those grants, just like Mark described. But I really would like to see us locally with Measure C funds increase the support for residents to do just the type of home hardening market is describing there. And I kind of like the idea of maybe targeting things at different times. Maybe this is the year for vents or the year for gutter screening, or you can make it more interesting because it's more understandable. It gets overwhelming when you hit the whole home hardening smorgasbord for people. So I think this is a great proposal. We're very much in favor of it. And I just kind of add on one other thing. I've been working with MWPA on this, but we're getting close to rolling out a really major campaign about adapting to wildfire, that being the language. And we really want to incorporate all these ideas into it. So I think it's a great proposal and 100% behind it.
Okay, thank you, Rich. Great comments. Anybody else? Questions or comments on the work plan direction? Okay, hearing none, I've got a couple. So first of all, I very much applaud the public education efforts that Fire Safe Marin is doing. Very high quality materials, opportunities for the public to engage. Especially it's difficult with COVID, that the normal gatherings and meeting people face to face and all that, is just not happening right now. But I just have a feeling that although the group of people, let's call it the choir, preaching to the choir, the choir is expanding and more people are sort of listening, but I think much more funding needs to become available on the public education side to begin to help with the hearts and minds part. I think that education and then the grants, which is things that incentivize, are very much needed to try and really get more people involved. We always get a bounce during wildland season, obviously, and when there are big terrible fires like in Colorado, people focus and they'll get more interested in listening for a short period of time. So, but I just can't help think that more public education dollars to try and get all those people that aren't being captured otherwise is needed. So that's just my personal kind of view. Another item is the advocacy for insurance, for people to be able to maintain their insurance. So there's a lot of work that's being done legislatively. There's people involved, there's groups that are out there that are trying to help, but I'm wondering whether we should wade in a little bit more as a group around that topic to try and advocate for homeowners to be able to maintain quality insurance at reasonable prices, and certainly not to be canceled or have their rates tripled. So I don't know what that looks like in terms of advocacy from MWPA, but I think it's a part that is missing to fully do that. So I just want to put that out there. And then lastly, just to bring to everyone's attention, if they don't know, we're going to come up on a code adoption cycle here with the fire code very shortly. And it is an opportunity for all of the different member agencies to align their fire codes around the home hardening. And so what I mean specifically is every city, town, fire jurisdiction should be adopting the fire hazard severity zones, the new maps that should be coming out from the state for their local areas, and they should all adopt a common wildland urban interface map where home hardening would be required based on substantial remodels. So some agencies, if you don't already know this, some agencies already have this in place, but not all. And I think that it would be very beneficial for all agencies to take advantage of this opportunity, because what it means is, you know, we have a largely built environment. All these homes that are out there, there's not a ton of new housing that's coming, right? It's all infill. So we have existing combustible construction. And the only way to flop this over, I think, in a reasonable way is not to retroactively require it. We can't do that, but we can do it over time with a substantial remodel provision that looks something like when people change the siding on their house, or when they change their windows or doors or decks or vents or eaves or whatever it happens to be, that it can only be changed, that component can only be changed to ignition resistant construction. And the place to start might be in these WUI areas. The state requires this now for new construction only. So we need to get uniformly at this problem as an entire complete county. And the way we can do that is through the code adoption. So being prepared, you know, having some goals around that, that the elected officials get behind and support, I think would be huge. So I'll get off my soapbox there. Anybody else have any comments about, you know, focus or direction for work plan?
Bill, just a comment, if I can, on the insurance piece, but just provide a little context for the rest of the panel. So the fire chiefs know that I sit on the executive board of the California Fire Chiefs Association. And this week we had our annual planning meeting. This issue of insurance and risk reduction work is one of the top priorities of the California Fire Chiefs Association. Actually, there's quite a bit of work going on in that lane, as Bill alluded to, especially with the Western Fire Chiefs group. The challenge is, and where I'd like to see us perhaps work very closely with the California Fire Chiefs Association, is in aligning the mitigation work that we're doing in Marin County with the insurance industry. And this is where the challenge is that where they identify prescriptions that they determine to be effective in reducing the risk, we want to make sure we're in alignment, or at least have influence over that, so they're not mandating or requesting certain prescriptions that are not in alignment with the work we're doing, if that makes sense. And so the whole purpose of what we're trying to do here in Marin County is reduce our risks to wildland fire, and then commensurately see a reduction in cancellations and a reduction in insurance policy rates. So I think there's an opportunity for us as a committee to be engaged in that discussion.
Anybody? Thank you, Chris. Anybody else?
Bill, just if I mean, I'm on board with everything you're saying. I mean, you're preaching to the choir. I loved everything you said. But my question is, do we make, I mean, that's part of the strategy. Do we ask the ATC, or do we, as for a JPA wide project, do you feel that we need to make a project out of reaching out and working with insurance companies, so on and so forth, and also document the desire in the work plan to bring the local codes and ordinances into alignment? Or is that just that overall strategy that we don't have to put into the work plan? Is my question.
So I would see in the work plan, let's take the codes piece. If there was a commitment, because that has to be done at each individual agency level. So if there was a commitment in the plan to advocate for that, and then we would have to report out, it would hold people accountable how their agencies are doing with regards to bringing that to reality.
And if I may interrupt, we could even make that a $0 project. Just put the document as a project.
That's correct.
Okay.
Something
all
to
right.
track. That's right. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Because what you get is over time, everybody's got to replace their siding within 30, 40 years.
Mhm.
So everybody's siding would end up becoming, ignition resistant construction. And
Okay.
everybody's going to do these things anyway. Let's make them do the right thing. So we incentivize, there's a carrot and stick approach to it. The carrot is the grants and whatnot to kind of help. The incentive is also being able to maintain your insurance potentially down the road because you made these changes. The stick is that, when you do these things, you need to do them, and it makes them do them. So it'll make them take advantage of the incentives. Then let's see, what was the second part was with the advocacy. Yeah, I mean, it would be, putting something in the plan, $0 cost, unless we're sending people to advocate, if we're trying to become more political and have political advocacy paid for. But it would be a commitment on folks to go to the various meetings they would need to go to or help support legislation, et cetera. That's the kind of thing that could get written into the plan.
That's the kind of information we needed. Thank you.
Okay.
Chief, a question here. I know for our smaller agencies out in West Marin, developing these plans is very technical, and we end up copying a lot of larger agencies' templates. Would MWPA be a potential place to develop a template for the language you're talking about for these fire codes that agencies could then report out to their possible boards?
Absolutely. All the fire prevention officers work together on a triennial basis to do that. So by the time they're done, there is a template that the agency can just put their name in.
And we can definitely help distribute that template.
Perfect. Thanks.
Okay, any more questions from board members or comments? All right, if we can go out to the public, this is on item 8A.
I see no hands raised at this time.
Okay. Then, so we need to go ahead and see, this is an action. So would basically what we've just said, does that get captured then into a motion? Says stay the course with the house out approach, increase grant dollars and scope amounts, seek partnerships on the grants for CAL FIRE shaded fuel break, increase dollars for public education, advocate for people maintaining quality insurance at reasonable rates, and a unified code adoption countywide with regards to maps and hardening based on substantial remodel. Does anyone want to make that motion?
So moved. Dan Schwartz.
Dan, thank you. Thanks for your bold leadership, Dan.
Second, Bill.
Second by Chris. Okay. Let's go to public comment on our bold first, second. Doesn't look like we have any. Okay, so Lori, can you do a roll call, please?
Who made the first on that?
The first was Dan Schwartz from Larkspur.
Dan.
The second was Chris Tubbs from Southern.
Thank you very much. Bolinas Fire District,
Yes.
City of San Rafael,
Yes.
City of Larkspur,
Yes.
County of Marin,
Aye.
Inverness,
Yes.
Kentfield Fire,
Yes.
Muir Beach,
Yes.
Novato Fire,
Yes.
Sleepy Hollow Fire,
Yes.
Southern Marin Fire,
Yes.
Marinwood,
Yes.
City of Mill Valley,
Yes.
Stimson Beach Fire,
Yes.
Town of Port Madera is absent. Town of Fairfax is absent. Town of Ross,
Yes.
Town of San Anselmo.
Yes.
Passes by majority vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Appreciate that. Thank you, everyone. Mark, you have direction on overall strategy, our recommendation anyway.
Thank you very much.
Next item is 8B. This is election of chair and vice chair for 2022 calendar year.
I'll start off with a couple of basic talking points related to process, and then I'll hand it back to you, Chair Tyler. So one of the first things on the Operation Committee's to-do list each calendar year is elect a chair and vice chair. The terms are 1 year in length. Both the chair and vice chair can be re-elected to multiple and/or consecutive terms. Staff recommends that the committee nominate members to serve as chair and vice chair as separate actions. After a motion has been made and seconded, we'll do a roll call and take the same voting procedure for the vice chair. And with that, I'll hand it back to you, Chief Tyler.
Okay, thank you very much. I believe our first chair of this committee was Jason Weber. I think he got off easy. He was then I appreciate everyone's support, through this past year in doing this. It was an honor and privilege to do. I do think that I want to spread some of the love around though, and not hog the bully pulpit. I do know that another thing that we'd always tried to balance was have the chair potentially be, say, a fire chief, and the vice chair to be like a city manager or something like that. Was something that we had always tried to balance out. So other than that, I want to thank you all for your support, and I'm looking for either a nomination or a volunteer to take my place. And with regards to process, I don't know if someone wants to either volunteer or nominate a chair and vice chair. If we take it as a slate, or do we need to do one at a time? And I should turn this over to Dan also to see where he is on continuing, because you can extend if you want.
I think you should take it as a slate if people are interested in doing that, just to keep things running smoothly here.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that a chief's going to continue to be the chair. That's a great idea.
And how about the vice chair? Are you content to continue on? Would you volunteer to do that?
I would be willing to do that. Yeah.
All right. So the future chair has a solid vice chair, tenured, seasoned veteran. So with that, are there any volunteers for chair or nominations for chair?
Bill, if I may, I know Darren White was on by phone and now he's in our audience. I just moved him over as a panelist.
There he is.
Sorry, I got promoted to panelist just now from my phone. So I certainly am more than happy to try to fill Chief Tyler's shoes. I know it's going to be a tall order, but if I could volunteer for the opportunity without being nominated, I would be more than happy to do so right at this time.
Thank you very much, Chief White. And it's not the size of the shoes, it's the stride. And I know you got that. So with that, it sounds like we have a slate. So it would be Darren White as Chair of the Ops Committee for 2022-2023 calendar year. And with the Vice Chair, City Manager Dan Schwartz. Can I get a motion for that?
So move, Jim Fox, Inverness.
Second.
So the first is Jim Fox, the second is David Dorney. Let's go out to public comment first before we take a vote. I don't want to forget the public. Any comment?
Seeing no hands raised.
All right. So can we get a roll call, please?
Are we voting on these together or as
Yes,
a
it's a
separate
slate.
vote? A slate. Okay, thank you. Bolinas Fire District,
Yes.
City of San Rafael,
Yes.
City of Larkspur,
Yes.
County of Marin,
Yes.
Inverness,
Yes, and thanks Darren and Dan.
Kentfield Fire,
Yes.
Marin Beach,
Muir Beach, yes,
Muir Beach, I'm sorry.
that's okay.
Novato Fire,
Yes.
Sleepy Hollow,
Yes.
Southern Marin,
Yes.
Marinwood,
Yes.
City of Mill Valley,
Yes.
Stimson Beach Fire,
Yes.
Town of Port Madera is absent. Town of Fairfax, absent. Town of Ross,
Yes.
and Town of San Anselmo.
Yes.
Passes by unanimous vote. Thank
Very
you.
good. Thank you so much, everyone. Appreciate it. Moving
Well,
now
if I
to
can just offer my thanks for you being the chair in this last year, and Jason, like you said, got the easy one because he didn't have to have a core work plan or anything. He just leaned on everybody to put together the individual member agencies. Meanwhile, you had to lead the operations committee in creating its first ever work plan that included core projects, and that was a lot of work. So thank you very much. And Darren, looking forward to working with you. And Dan,
Thank you,
thanks for
Bill.
sticking in there, buddy.
Yeah, no, thank you. Happy to help you guys. Okay, let's see. Next is the committee report. So we've got Citizen Oversight Committee. I think do we move someone over for that one?
Lucy,
Good morning, everybody. The Citizens Oversight Committee just has one point to make, and that is when you are designing your work plan process, could you bear in mind that the earlier you get the COC educated, the less questions you have. So that if we could have access, and I know that Mark and I discussed this, and he felt that the early plans might be too early for us to look at. But if we were able to just watch the development, I know a lot of this goes on in subcommittee, we could, have less questions because we will have seen the idea and as it gets refined. So this, just bringing that up for your consideration, whether that might be an opportunity when, say, the non-voting members get to look at the early development of the plans. They get to view but not edit in any way. Whether it would be reasonable for us to just have a look at it at that point. But anyway, we leave that for your consideration. But we've just found that in our work progress, the earlier we understand the work plans, the less issues we have. So thank you very much.
Yes, thank you for those comments. And then I'm also, the members of the COC, correct me if I'm wrong, but don't they also have sort of a representative from each of the area groups on there? Can you just?
Yes, not necessarily, actually. I mean, when you say on there, we have certain members of the COC watching different committee work, but not necessarily every single member, and therefore not every area will be represented on the COC to be watching what's going on.
But isn't there one per zone?
There is one per zone, yes.
Okay, so it may be helpful because a lot of these things, it's not even that they start at the ATC, they start at an individual agency.
Mhm.
And then they bubble up through the zone, through the ATC and stuff. So it might be a good idea to have the person that is the COC member representing that zone try and contact the folks within that zone as it's being developed.
That's a good idea.
Give them additional access. I don't know. But yeah, view only, certainly I don't see why we couldn't do that, but I'll leave that to Mark and Ann to figure out.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, great comments. Okay. Looks like the next item here under 9 is there's another bullet point. It says Advisory Technical Committee. So we're receiving a report there.
Lynn?
I'm here.
Hi, Lynn.
Hi. So this will be brief. Lynn Osgood, Vice Chair for the Technical Advisory Committee. So first off, we had our kickoff meeting on December 14th to begin discussing the development of the 2022-23 work plan. Beginning this month, we're going to participate in the training and testing of the web portal, the small set of project proposals per zone using the new MWPA web portal for the 22-23 projects. We're also in the process of creating an ad hoc committee to review the updated ESP Best Management Practices report. The committee will hopefully include representatives from the tech group to include people from fire as well as natural resource management to have a better balance and to get some input as far as environmental compliance. We also approved the objectives under the goals on the development of measures of success. So that was completed. And the next meeting will take place on January 31st. And in that meeting, we will be electing a new chair and vice chair. And I just added to my list that it looks like we'll be working with the MWPA on CAL FIRE grant for shaded fuel breaks. So looking forward to that, have some experience in that. And that's the end of the report.
Very good. Thank you, Lynn. Any questions from our board members here? Okay, and I just realized I didn't go out to the public on the item prior, which was the COC, and I thought I saw Larry Chu might have had his hand raised. Larry, did you want to speak on either of these items, or if we have a public comment on either of these?
I don't see any hands raised.
Okay, maybe we answered his question. Oh, there it is, Larry Chu.
There he is.
Can we move him over or give him the chance to ask? There he is. Welcome, Larry.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Hi, Chief Tyler, members of the Operations Committee. Yeah, we hadn't fully coordinated this because I wasn't sure if I'd be able to make this meeting time since I had a conflict at the top of the meeting. Originally, I was asked just to provide a general overview of the activities of the Citizens Oversight Committee. So if you have maybe a couple minutes, I can just provide you with a brief update.
Yes, please. Yes, Larry, please proceed.
Okay. Just generally speaking, we've spent the first year in formation of the COC, and that was in creating our own governance and a framework for the annual review. We are structured in a way where there are 4 subcommittees, one to deal with the financials and one to deal with the work plans. And within that, it's to ensure that the work that's being done by the MWPA is consistent with the Measure C metrics as defined in the enabling legislation, any governance documents, or any of the policies that you've set by resolution. There's also a transparency committee, which is just to review whether the agency is utilizing good open government practices. And there's a fourth committee, which will be compiling the information and actually producing the annual report. I'd like to mention to this committee, in particular Chief Tubbs, that Lissa Schiffman has put together what I consider an accounting structure that's easy to read, and I was able to get through all the financial details without any problems. So we're finalizing a lot of those comments now, and there's still a few questions we need to work out with the Executive Officer Brown. At this point, we're going to be looking at individual draft reports from each of the subcommittees in our January meeting in a week and a half, and hopefully be able to review the compiled draft of the annual report in our February meeting and then issue it shortly thereafter. So I'll leave it at that. And if there are any questions from yourself or any of the committee members, I'd be happy to take them.
Very good, Larry. Thank you for that report. Any questions from board members? That helps us, at least myself, shed a little more light on how you guys are operating.
Okay, and much like yourself, we will have also a transition in our own officers. I am the outgoing chair, and Lucy Dilworth, who you just heard from, will be the incoming chair.
Who is that?
Lucy Dilworth.
Okay, all right. Well, congratulations to Lucy, and we'll be happy. We'll enjoy looking forward to working with her. Any other questions from our group? Any other public comment?
Seeing no hands raised.
Great. We're in the home stretch here. Any of our committee members, would you like to have anything on a future agenda? Any items that you'd like to see next time we get together? Okay, seeing none, just the usual, I suppose. And now anything from the public on future agenda items?
I see no hands raised. Larry, you didn't want to speak again, did you? Thank you.
All right. This is adjournment time. I want to thank everyone for their participation again. Looks like we went an hour and 15, so enjoy the nice weather. I hope you all stay healthy, and good luck to everybody. So just a motion to adjourn to make it official. Just showing Darren how it's done. Motion to adjourn.
So moved, Jim Fox.
Don't move.
Hey, so Christina Johnson, Jim Fox, second. All in favor, say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Bye.
Very good.
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great week.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.